Good evening, vinyl community. It's Mark here, Basshead 4. It's a solo video from me on the Dr. Rhythm channel. John Kay is, I think, on his way to Iceland actually as we speak. We're not scheduled to get together and make a video till the end of September, and I just have so much stuff to share and talk about that I just couldn't really wait. And also I was kind of inspired by seeing a video of John and Anders in Stockholm, who met up in London I think a couple of days ago, and it just made me want to get on and do something. So without further ado, we're listening to a great CD. I'm sure a lot of people know this. Message from the Tribe, compilation of some fantastic music. Phil Ranelin and Tribe, Doug Hammond, whole bunch of stuff, kind of early 70s funky jazz. Really great if you don't know this one. Anyway, yeah, I guess wanted to sort of share some of the music that's been inspired by me watching videos on the VC, and just, yeah, to reinforce what a great thing the VC is in terms of exposing people to music they might not necessarily know about. And the first thing I'm going to show, this was Chris 1427 Basket showed this. Manuel Gottshing, E2 to E4, the guitarist with the Asherah Temple, and a really groundbreaking dance, I guess electronic piece of dance music dating from the early 80s that was big on the decks of people like Larry Levan at the Paradise Garage in New York, and the guy David Mancuso, who was the DJ at the Loft. And I guess one of those pieces of music that in a way, you know, there was the guys making it had no idea about the influence it was going to have, and very much Manuel Gottshing being a guitarist, you know, a sort of space rock guitarist, but really into his effects and filtering, and just created a beautiful sort of ambient dance piece of music that goes on for a whole side, and a whole two sides really. Just really great music, still sounding really fresh and so ahead of the game. At the time it came out, still sounds great now. So thank you for Chris for showing this, and I was very pleased to find a copy. I think it was Sublime Media who showed this, and I only picked this up, just came through a couple of days ago. Andre Aubin, the Arsonist, and this I guess is sort of electronic pop. It's got quite a late 70s, early 80s electronics feel, but with a heavier kind of dance beat, and some nice pop songs, kind of quite breathy, vocodery kind of vocals. Really nice. Just, I've only heard it a couple of times so far, but really nice piece of vinyl as well. Gatefold sleeve. There is certainly this album design seems to have been a bit influenced by the latest Bowie, I would say. But I like this. Definitely check it out on YouTube if you want to hear more. This one, I've got to thank Eric the Viking. Very pleased to see him back on the VC. Beautiful. Black Moth. Was it Black Moth Superrainbow? Amazing piece of vinyl. Picture disc. I guess this also, I think, came out in 2007. It sounds, I think, well, they say it on the sleeve, like a cross between Daft Punk and Strawberry Fields era Beatles, but also there's sort of traces of Gary Newman. Just really, you know, interesting analogy sounds. Just very fresh. I have to say, I've been really getting more into what's happening in the sort of supposed psychedelic scene recently. mainly because it seems to be about people who are not afraid to take risks, and it seems to be a genuinely quite, you know, an interesting experimental place. So this was great, and thank you, Eric, for sharing this. Very pleased with that. And of course, John Kay, normally my partner in crime on these videos, he showed this last time I think we made a video together, and of course it was so good I had to get myself a copy. William Tyler, The Impossible Truth, lovely album, double vinyl. A guitar player. It's basically pretty much all him with a few guests, but beautifully layered guitar pieces. Lots to listen to, really benefits from repeated listenings. Lots of interesting colours and textures in the playing. Some lovely use of effects, vibratos and tremolos. Very, very atmospheric. Somehow the cover sort of definitely gives you a sense of the kind of feel of the album, American album. Yeah, really, I highly recommend this, and thank you very much to John Kay for sharing this with me. Then a couple of albums I picked up for what we call a quid, a pound in the UK. Albums that I wouldn't necessarily have picked up actually if I hadn't seen Derek rave about them. The Moody Blues, In Search of the Lost Chord, and On the Threshold of a Dream. These are both original issues on the Duram label. Amazingly cheap, £1 each, and really in pretty good condition after a quick clean. And I guess, you know, again on the sort of psychedelic tip, the Moody Blues, who were, you know, originally a kind of R&B band, and something happened to them in 1967, and they suddenly started really expanding their sounds. And whilst it sounds a little quaint now, you know, there's sort of spoken word and lots of mellotron, genuinely, you know, they were pushing boundaries and trying lots of new stuff, and a really interesting kind of combination of 4 or 5 different songwriters, so a real combination of different voices and sounds coming together. So really nice to get those Moody Blues, and especially at such a great price. Yeah, I think I've said it before, there's not enough reggae on the VC. This is a 12-inch by Dr. Alimantado. It's called Born for a Purpose, on the Greensleeves record label, which was a UK label. Came out, I think, in about 1978. I think this is John Lydon's favourite reggae 12-inch. Just a really great tune, great production, really strong melody, great sort of dubby production as well. Highly recommended for anyone who doesn't know that tune. This is Wrecked Again. This has just been reissued. A singer-songwriter called Michae Chapman, who seems to be having a bit of a rebirth. He's been around since the late 60s. Really lovely double vinyl reissue. Yeah, Wrecked Again, I think it was his last album on EMI, and yeah, there's a great sort of orchestration from Paul Buckmaster on this, and the producer Gus Dudgeon did a great job. Hard to really describe exactly what this sounds like. It's really you know, very varied. I guess this was the hallmark of what was happening in the early 70s, is that artists were being given the benefit of the doubt. We're not having to stick to any particular one kind of genre, and we're really able to experiment. And some great songs on this, some great playing, some great arrangements, some great strings, fantastic production, an excellent reissue. Check it out if you don't know anything about Michae Chapman. Really nice. I don't think I've seen anyone share this so far. This is Cyclopean. So this is a EP. Oh, We're still here? Yes. It's an EP. It features half of Can, Jackie Leapsight and Erwin Schmidt, working with two other guys, Bernd Friedman and Jono Podmore. It's 4 tracks. It's kind of real-time and electronic grooves, very kind of Can-like, but obviously with a very contemporary production. Certainly for any Can completists, I would say, essential purchase. You know, not kind of groundbreaking, but nice grooves, good to listen to, and if you like Jackie Leapsight's drumming, then I think definitely would like this. And then a new purchase, something that I've been very excited about. It's probably been on my turntable the most of recent purchases. And this is Thundercat, who is a bass player. It's his second album, and he works a lot with Flying Lotus. It's 2 vinyl albums here. And when George Duke passed a couple of weeks back, it made me really think of Thundercat, because I think he is hugely influenced by that kind of early to mid-70s George Duke period, particularly vocally and also with a lot of the sort of synth sounds, the analog synth sounds. What's interesting with Thundercat is he is really a virtuoso bass player. I mean, he can really play the bass. He's clearly a big fan of Stanley Clarke, but his albums aren't about him showing off his chops. I mean, most of the tunes are composed on the bass. You can hear lots of bass chords, but they also have a really unusual and distinctive sound. And yeah, with this kind of cosmic George Duke type vocal and Flying Lotus's heavyweight production, it's really quite an arresting and individual and unusual sound. So certainly worth checking out. And quite touching, I think there was a particular collaborator who had worked previously with Thundercat on the last album. Yeah, a guy called Austin Topher Peralta. There's a picture of him here. And I think he died before this album came out. I think actually before he was even appeared on it, and died very young. And there's a strong sort of sense of remembering him and paying tribute to a talent that died very young. So there's a lot. It's poignant and probably more song-based than his first album, but very, very highly recommended. Check him out, Thundercat. Okay. Now I've been really into this book called Galactic Ramble. I think I mentioned it before, which is all about jazz, pop, rock, prog music from the mid-60s to the early 70s, and I've been gradually working my way through it and picking up a massive list of albums that I'd really like to get at some stage. And amazingly enough, I never had this album, which is the Odyssey and Oracle by the Zombies, which is one of the highly recommended albums in the book. I'm sure most of you know this album, I just had never got a copy. And I've been on holiday and I came across this amazing record shop, which was at the back of a pet shop in Bridport in Dorset. And you would never really know that there was a record shop there. There's a small sign and a few records sort of amongst the dog food and cat toys and stuff, and you go back there and there's just hundreds and hundreds of second-hand vinyl. In fact, this is a recent reissue, but reissued from the original analog mastered tapes. Classic album. I love Colin Blunstone's vocal, and just really interested in that period of music, and really keen to kind of get deeper into it. And to that end, the guy who one of the editors of Galactic Ramble, produces this magazine, which I think we're only into issue 3, big fat magazine that you can get online called Flashback. Really, really interesting. A bit like how Wax Poetics used to be, but this is focused more on sort of quite obscure 60s and 70s progressive music. And like, you know, so we've got Mighty Baby on the cover, whose second album I've recently picked up, and just a massively in-depth, detailed article about them that I can't imagine where you would ever see anything on this band, who are really quite obscure, anywhere else. So well recommended. And also, while we're on the subject of magazines, again another magazine charting similar kind of territory called Shindig. This I actually just picked up from the newsagent, but again really sort of illustrating what a vibrant scene is happening in the sort of new psychedelia music scene at the moment. But again, for me, it's about people who are experimenting and taking risks, and it's just always good to hear what's happening. Okay, now somebody who definitely experimented and took risks and was a god, and actually this album I also picked up at this pet shop stroke record shop in Bridport. Gil Evans, obviously very well known for all his work with Miles Davis in the 50s, 60s, and some in the 70s as well. And this is an album called The British Orchestra, and is a live recording of when Gil came and did a gig at the Roundhouse in Camden in London, but with an all English band, but who amazingly actually really sound like the Gil Evans Orchestra, even though they're all UK band members. And again, just some great playing. It sounds like the musicians really stepped up a gear, clearly really inspired and excited to be with a calibre of musician as Gil. Gil, who's actually playing keys on this. Highly recommended. I think, you know, I picked this up very cheap, I think £5, so well recommended. And my last album, which also came from the pet shop stroke record shop, just a classic sort of soul funk record, Rocking Chair, Gwen McCrae, on the Cat record label, which is also home to Little Beaver, the guitarist, Lattimore, Timmy Thomas. There's a particular track, 90% of Me Is You, which if you don't know that track, have a listen to YouTube. Absolute stone cold funk classic. So there we go. There's loads more, but actually I was very keen to keep the video under the 20-minute mark. Just a final couple of shout outs. Well, Roger, I've noticed Roger is great. John Kay told me about Roger. Great videos, really enjoying how he talks and his passion for music, and just again somebody else truly being themselves on the VC. Really refreshing and great honesty, great insights. Great to have you on board, Roger. Big Star 1000, really enjoyed your last video, and I think I'm going to take up the 28-day challenge and not buy any vinyl throughout September and see what that feels like. Okay, well this was fun, I enjoyed this. Please comment. As I say, John and I will be back late September to do a double header VC session, and until then, love to everybody, and see you soon.